My husband brought me a stunning dress from a business trip. The next day while he was at work, his sister stopped by. The moment she saw the dress, her eyes lit up. Could I try it on? I can only dream of owning something like that, she laughed. I agreed. But as soon as she slipped it on and stepped in front of the mirror, she suddenly started screaming. Can you imagine thinking your husband bought you a beautiful, expensive dress as a surprise, only to discover it was a meticulously planned murder weapon? And the person who almost died wearing it wasn't you, but your sister-in-law, triggering a terrifying chain of events that exposed a betrayal so chilling, it still makes my blood run cold. I'm Ella Laner Mitchell, 37 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been running my late mother's small chain of pharmacies. We have 3 locations across the city, bringing in a steady income, and I was genuinely proud of how I'd not only kept the business afloat, but actually managed to expand it. It was my life's work, a legacy I was determined to honor. Then one Friday evening, my husband, Nathan, returned from a business trip. I heard the front door close, then his familiar footsteps on the stairs. The elevator in our building worked intermittently, so the stairs were common. When he entered, there was this strange, almost triumphant smile playing on his face. "Hi, honey," he said, setting his suitcase down in the hallway. He pulled out a large box tied with a satin ribbon. "I have a surprise for you." I raised my eyebrows, genuinely surprised. Nathan had never been known for his generosity. Gifts from him were rare. In our 11 years of marriage, I'd grown accustomed to his practicality, bordering on stinginess. He always said money needed to be saved, not spent on trifles. "What is this?" I asked, taking the box, feeling its pleasant weight. "Open it," he shrugged, heading into the kitchen to pour himself some water. I carefully untied the ribbon and opened the lid. Inside, neatly laid in thin white paper, was a dress. Emerald green with a deep neckline and an elegant cut. It was clearly expensive. The tag from a well-known brand confirmed it. The price made my jaw drop. "Nathan, this is..." I couldn't find the words. "Where did you get this?" "I was walking past a boutique downtown. Went in." He shrugged again, as if he were talking about buying bread. "Thought you'd like it. You haven't bought anything for yourself in a long time." That was true. I rarely spent money on myself. All my time went to work solving endless questions with suppliers, accounting, inspections. But for Nathan to notice this himself and buy such a thing? That just wasn't like him. "Thank you," I said, kissing him on the cheek, feeling a slight bewilderment. "It's very beautiful." Nathan just smiled and went to change. He was 41, tall, with graying temples starting to show. He still looked attractive. He worked as a financial analyst at a trading company, earned well, but definitely not enough to just spontaneously buy a $600 dress. The rest of the evening passed quietly. Nathan talked about his business trip, meetings, partners, negotiations, boring conferences. I listened with half an ear, already thinking about the coming week. An inspection was expected at one of the pharmacies on Monday. I needed to prepare documents. On Saturday morning, Nathan left for the office, saying he urgently needed to finish a report. I stayed home. I planned to sort through accumulated papers and perhaps try on the dress. It lay on the dresser in the box, still emerald and alluring, but I decided to postpone it for the evening when I'd have free time. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a knock on the door. It was Claire, Nathan's sister, 35, blonde with soft features. She worked as a kindergarten teacher and always complained about her small salary. She and I were friends, though we saw each other infrequently. "Hi, Ella," Claire said, walking into the apartment, taking off her light jacket. "I was passing by, decided to drop in. Is Nathan home?" "No, at work." I made tea and we sat down in the kitchen. The conversation was about small things, about our nephews, about the renovation Claire couldn't finish in her 2-bedroom apartment. Then we moved to the living room, and Claire's gaze fell on the box with the dress, which was still lying on the dresser. "Oh, what's this?" She came closer, looking inside. "Nathan gave it to me, brought it from his business trip." I smiled. Claire slowly approached the box and her eyes widened. "Liska." She ran her hand over the fabric. "This is a designer brand. I've only seen this in magazines. Can I try it on? Please. I can only dream of something like this." There was such sincere enthusiasm in her voice that I laughed. Of course, try it on. Just be careful. Claire ran to the bedroom to change. A few minutes later she returned, fastening the zipper in the back. The dress fit her perfectly. Claire was slightly slimmer than me, but the difference was small. The emerald fabric beautifully set off her blonde hair. How is it? She twirled in front of the hallway mirror, admiring herself. Perfect. I nodded, watching her. Claire came closer to the mirror, examining the details of the cut. And suddenly her face contorted. She grabbed her throat, started coughing. Dry, tearing coughs. What? What's wrong with you? I jumped up from the couch. I can't breathe. Claire stepped back from the mirror, her eyes filling with tears. The skin on her neck reddened, became blotchy. It burns. It burns so much. Take it off. Take it off me. Her voice broke into a scream. Her hands pulled at the fabric, trying to pull the dress over her head. But the zipper was in the back. And in a panic, Claire couldn't unzip it. I rushed to her, quickly found the clasp and jerked the zipper down. The dress slipped to the floor and Claire, gasping, kicked it away. The coughing continued. Her face was covered with red spots. Her breathing became ragged. Claire, hang on. I'm calling an ambulance. I grabbed the phone. I quickly dictated the address to the dispatcher, described the symptoms. The operator advised opening a window, giving an antihistamine if available. I rushed to the medicine cabinet. I always kept several medications on hand in case of an attack. My own allergy required constant readiness. Here, drink this. I handed Claire a tablet and a glass of water. Claire swallowed the medicine with difficulty, still gasping. Gradually, the cough began to subside, though the redness on the skin remained. 10 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. The paramedic, a woman about 45, examined Claire, measured her blood pressure, listened to her lungs. Allergic reaction, she stated. Contact, judging by everything. Did you put something on? Claire nodded, pointing to the emerald fabric lying on the floor. I just tried it on and immediately. The paramedic took the dress, smelled the fabric, frowned. Chemical smell. Could be a dye or treatment. Have you had allergies before? No, never. Claire shook her head. I don't suffer from anything like that. The paramedic recorded the data, gave recommendations. Observation, antihistamines if it gets worse, straight to the hospital. Hospitalization wasn't required, but she needed to be alert. When the ambulance left, Claire sat on the couch, still pale. Ella, don't wear this dress. She looked at me, serious. Seriously, there's something wrong with it. I've never had a reaction like this. I nodded silently. I approached the dress lying on the floor and carefully picked it up, hooking it on a hanger. The fabric really smelled slightly chemical. How had I not noticed immediately? Because I hadn't smelled it. I just looked at it and put it away on the dresser. Claire left half an hour later, still a bit unsteady. I walked her to the door, promising to call in the evening to find out how she was feeling. Left alone, I returned to the living room and approached the dress. I examined it in the light. Quality fabric, expensive tailoring, a well-known brand. But the smell, definitely something chemical. And then I was struck by a thought that made me go cold inside. I myself had an allergy, severe, confirmed by tests, with the risk of anaphylactic shock. 5 years ago, after accidental contact with a certain dye in a new blouse, they took me to the ICU. Since then, I had observed the strictest precautionary measures, checked fabric compositions, avoided synthetic dyes. Nathan knew about this. He was there during that attack, saw how they revived me, how I spent a week under medical observation. And he brought me a dress that caused such a reaction in Claire. I sat on the couch, feeling my pulse quicken. Could it be a coincidence? Could Claire just be sensitive to something in this particular fabric? But then why would Nathan, who never gave me expensive things, suddenly bring this particular dress? Why didn't he check the composition, knowing about my diagnosis? I stood up, went to the dresser, and took the receipt out of the box. I looked at it and froze. Purchase date: the day before yesterday, Thursday. But Nathan returned from the business trip only yesterday evening. He had left on Monday, and the trip was to another city 1,000 miles away. So the dress was bought here in our city, not on a business trip. I slowly sank back onto the couch, clutching the receipt in my hand. Nathan had lied. But why? I tried to call him, but the phone was unavailable. I wrote a message. Call me. Urgent. There was no answer. I got up, went to the bedroom and opened the closet. Carefully putting on rubber gloves, I packed the dress in a thick plastic bag, tied it and put it away on the top shelf away from clothes. Returning to the living room, I sat down at the table, found and opened my medical record from the drawer, found the entry from 5 years ago. Anaphylactic reaction to azo group dye, high risk of repeated shock, recommended to avoid contact with synthetic dyes, carry autoinjector at all times. Nathan knew. He definitely knew. The phone rang. Ella? What happened? His voice was irritated. Hurried. Your sister was at our place. She tried on the dress. She had an attack. We called an ambulance. I spoke evenly, restraining the tremor in my voice. A pause. What? What kind of attack? Allergy. Contact. The paramedic said there's a chemical composition in the fabric that caused a reaction. Another pause. Longer. Well, it happens. Claire is sensitive. Nathan was clearly choosing his words. Nothing serious though. Nathan. I have the same allergy. Only mine can end in the ICU. You remember, don't you? Of course I remember, he sighed. Ella, it's just an accident. I didn't check the composition. Didn't think. I'm sorry. The dress was bought here in the city the day before yesterday. You were on a business trip. The silence became almost palpable. I asked an acquaintance to buy it, he finally said. Didn't have time myself. What difference does it make? What acquaintance? Ella, I'm at work. I don't have time. We'll talk tonight. And he hung up. I put the phone on the table and covered my face with my hands. Inside, everything compressed from terrible suspicions. This couldn't be an accident. Nathan, who knew about her allergy, who asked someone to buy a dress, who possibly lied about the business trip. And the dress that almost killed his sister. What if I had tried it on? My apartment was registered in my name, the pharmacy's also my business. In case of my death, everything would pass to my husband as the heir of the first priority. I had no will. I always put off this question, considering myself still too young for such thoughts. I stood up and approached the window. On the street it had grown dark. The streetlights lit up, illuminating the deserted sidewalks. Somewhere out there in this city was a woman who bought the dress at Nathan's request. Who was she? And most importantly, what had they planned? I took my phone and dialed the number of my lawyer, David Harper. He had handled my mother's family affairs, then helped me with business registration. Reliable, experienced. He had helped me out in difficult situations more than once. Mr. Harper, good evening. I need a consultation urgently. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm listening. The lawyer's voice was calm, professional. I began to tell him briefly the facts. The dress, Claire's attack, the receipt with the wrong date, Nathan's lie. And you think this isn't accidental? David clarified when I finished. I don't know what to think, but I'm scared, I admitted. Tomorrow is Sunday, but let's meet Monday morning, the lawyer suggested. I'll prepare a plan of action. And now the main thing is, don't touch this dress. Preserve it as is. I already packed it. Excellent. And one more thing, try not to be home alone if possible. Invite someone over. I hung up and looked around. The apartment that had always been my fortress, my refuge, suddenly seemed alien, cold. Nathan returned late at night, around 11 o'clock. He entered quietly, undressed in the hallway, and went into the bedroom. I wasn't sleeping. I lay staring at the ceiling. How's Claire? He asked, lying down beside me. Fine, I lied. The medication helped. That's good. He turned on his side, his back to me. Good night. I didn't answer. I listened to his breathing, even calm as if nothing had happened. But the receipt with the date wouldn't disappear, and the smell of chemicals on the fabric wouldn't either, and Claire's reaction. I closed my eyes, knowing that sleep wouldn't come. Ahead was the night. Then I needed to wait for the meeting with the lawyer, and the beginning of a path that would lead me either to the truth or to something I was afraid to even think about. Monday began with me calling Claire before 8 o'clock in the morning. My sister-in-law's voice sounded tired but calm. How are you feeling? I asked, pouring myself coffee in the kitchen. Better. The redness is almost gone. My throat doesn't hurt, but I couldn't sleep all night, Claire sighed. Ella, it was terrible. I thought I would suffocate. Are you going to the doctor? Yes, I made an appointment for today with an allergist. I want to check what it was. Maybe I've developed an allergy to something now. I paused, considering my next words. Claire, asked the doctor to document the connection between the reaction and the dress. Officially. It's important. Why? Just please ask. Say it was after contact with a new item, and let the doctor record this as a possible allergen source. Claire agreed, though there was bewilderment in her voice. I said goodbye and finished my coffee, looking at the clock. In an hour, my meeting with the lawyer. Nathan had left for work early as usual. At breakfast, we hardly spoke. He read the news on his phone. I pretended to check my email. The atmosphere was tense like a string, ready to snap at the slightest touch. David Harper's office was located in the city center in an old building with high ceilings and creaky parquet floors. The lawyer was 44. He specialized in family disputes, inheritance cases, and protection of property rights. Graying hair, a strict suit, and an attentive look from behind glasses. David inspired trust from the first minutes of acquaintance. Mrs. Mitchell, come in. He pointed to a chair opposite his desk, piled with folders of documents. I sat down, placing my bag on my lap. The lawyer poured me water from a pitcher, settled into his chair, and took out a notebook. Tell me everything from the beginning in detail. I began to speak. Nathan's return from the business trip, the expensive dress, Claire trying it on, the terrible attack. Then the receipt with the wrong date, the lie about where it was purchased, my husband's strange behavior, and most importantly, my own allergy, which Nathan knew perfectly well about. David listened without interrupting, making brief notes in his notebook. When I finished, he looked thoughtfully out the window. You think your husband could have deliberately brought you an item that could cause anaphylactic shock? His voice was even, without a trace of condemnation or disbelief. I don't know. I clasped my hands. But the facts speak for themselves. He lied about where he bought the dress. He asked someone to do it for him. And this dress almost killed his sister and could have definitely killed me. Motive. Money. The apartment, the business. Everything is in my name. There's no will. In case of my death, he gets everything as a spouse. David nodded, writing. Good. Now I'll explain what we can do legally. First, protect you. Second, document the evidence. Third, eliminate the motive if it really exists. He pulled the notebook closer and began outlining the plan. Do you have the dress in safekeeping? Yes, I packed it in a bag wearing gloves. Haven't touched it since. Excellent. We need to initiate an expert examination of the fabric. Find out what specific chemical composition caused the reaction. For this, we'll have to contact either a private laboratory or through the police if we file a report. A report about what? I felt my mouth go dry. About a possible attempt to cause harm to health. So far, it sounds like an assumption, but if the examination shows that the fabric contains a substance from the risk group for you, and your husband knew about your allergy, that's already grounds for serious investigation. I nodded, feeling how cold it was getting inside. An official report against her husband. Police expert examination. But before going to the police, we need to strengthen the evidence base, David continued. First, a medical report on your sister-in-law's reaction. Let the doctor document that the attack occurred after contact with a specific item. I already asked Claire about this. Good. Second, your own medical record with allergy history. Third, the receipt for the dress purchase with date and place. Fourth, we'll try to find out who exactly bought this dress. The store, loyalty card, surveillance cameras. I listened, trying to remember everything. My head was spinning. And what about the property? I asked. This is the most important thing. David raised his finger. You need to immediately protect your assets. Execute a power of attorney for managing shares in the business and accounts not to your husband, but to a trusted person, someone you trust completely. I have a partner, Gregory Barnes. We own the pharmacies together. He has a 40% share. That'll work. Execute a temporary power of attorney to him. Also, I strongly recommend making a will. Specify who gets what in case of your death. Exclude automatic inheritance by the spouse if you have doubts about his intentions. I felt myself break out in a cold sweat. A will. I had thought about this as something distant, abstract, but now it had become reality. This will eliminate the motive, David explained. If your husband really planned something like this for money, he'll understand that even in case of your death, he won't get anything. This will either stop him or force him to act differently, and then we'll be able to track it. All right. I nodded. When can we do this? The will. Anytime. We can go to a notary today. The power of attorney also today. The sooner the better. They spent another hour in the office discussing details. David made a list of actions, scheduled timelines, explained legal nuances. When I left the office, I had a clear plan in my hands and a feeling that I at least controlled something in this situation. The next step was meeting with Claire. We agreed to meet at a cafe near the clinic where she was going for an appointment with an allergist. Claire arrived on time, looking tired but healthy. The redness on her skin had indeed almost disappeared. Only light traces remained on her neck. How are you feeling? I hugged her. Better, but scary to remember. Claire sat at the table, ordered tea. I never thought that clothes could cause such a thing. I paused, choosing my words. Claire, I need to tell you something. I myself have a severe allergy documented with risk of anaphylaxis. Nathan knows about this. Claire looked up, understanding flickering in her eyes. You mean if you had tried on this dress, they would have taken me to the ICU or worse? The silence stretched. Claire paled. Ella, do you think Nathan, that he did it on purpose? I don't know, but the facts are strange. He lied about where he bought the dress, asked someone to do it, and this dress is dangerous for me. Claire covered her face with her hands. Oh my God, this is my brother. I can't believe it. I don't want to believe it either. I put my hand on her shoulder. But I need your help. Ask the doctor to document that your reaction was connected to the dress officially in the records. Okay, Claire nodded, wiping her eyes. I'll do it. And I'll come with you, I said. The appointment with the allergist took about 40 minutes. The doctor, Dr. Rebecca Morrison, a calm middle-aged woman, examined Claire, asked many questions, and carefully listened to the story about the dress. You say the reaction started immediately after you put on the item? She clarified, taking notes. Yes, literally within a minute, Claire nodded. I approached the mirror and it started coughing, burning, couldn't breathe. Dr. Morrison frowned. Fabrics often retain traces of dyes, fixing compounds, antiseptic treatments. In people with increased sensitivity, contact with such substances can cause a sharp reaction. Have you had allergies before? No, never. Then this was most likely an acute contact reaction to a chemical component in the fabric. I'll document this in the records. Contact allergen is probable. The item is a potential source. I, who was sitting next to Claire, leaned forward. Doctor, may I ask a question? I myself have a severe allergy with risk of anaphylaxis. My medical record has a documented diagnosis, reaction to azo group dyes. This dress was intended for me, but Claire tried it on. Is there a possibility that it contains exactly such a dye? Dr. Morrison looked at me carefully. Quite possible. Azo dyes are widely used in the textile industry, especially for bright colors, emerald, red, blue. Do you have this item? Yes, I kept it. I recommend conducting a chemical analysis of the fabric. If they really find a substance from your risk group there, you absolutely cannot have contact with this thing. Is it possible through examination to establish whether this substance was added deliberately? I asked quietly. The doctor thought. I'm not a lawyer or a forensic expert, but if we're talking about additional fabric treatment beyond standard, this can be noticeable by the concentration of the substance or by atypical distribution. For this, a serious laboratory examination is needed. I nodded, feeling everything inside compress, so it could be checked. All that remained was to do it. When we left the clinic, Claire took my hand. What are you going to do? Fight. I answered simply. I'm not going to die. The rest of the day was spent on business. I met with a notary, executed a will in which I specified the transfer of my share in the business to partner Gregory Barnes and the apartment to my cousin. Nathan wasn't mentioned anywhere. I also executed a power of attorney for managing finances and assets to my partner in case something happened to me. In the evening when Nathan came home, I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I heard him walking around the apartment, looking for something in the kitchen, then entering the bedroom and standing at the door for a long time, looking at me. I didn't move, clutching my phone under the blanket. On the screen was an open message from David. Tomorrow we're submitting a request to the store with the receipt. We'll try to find out who bought the dress. Nathan lay down beside me but didn't touch me. He lay silently, his breathing even, as if nothing had happened. But the receipt with the date wouldn't disappear, and the smell of chemicals on the fabric wouldn't either. And Claire's reaction? I closed my eyes knowing that sleep wouldn't come. Ahead was the night. Then I needed to wait for the meeting with the lawyer, and the beginning of a path that would lead me either to the truth or to something I was afraid to even think about. Tuesday began with David Harper calling me at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was already sitting in my office at the main pharmacy, going through documents for the upcoming inspection, but my thoughts were not about work at all. Mrs. Mitchell, there's news. The lawyer's voice sounded businesslike. I sent a request to the store with the receipt. The response came faster than expected. They have a loyalty system, and the purchase was registered with a card. I felt my pulse quicken. And the buyer's name is Vanessa Pierce, 33 years old, registered at an address in the Riverside district, works as a stylist consultant at a company that supplies clothing to retail chains. Vanessa Pierce. So Nathan hadn't lied about the name but everything else. Is she really his colleague? I asked. Checking now. Give me a couple of hours. I'll try to find out more details. But the fact is that she registered the purchase in her own name, used her loyalty card. This is documented. Good. What next? Now we need to connect everything together. Do you have the medical report on Claire? Yes. She gave me a copy yesterday evening. The doctor documented the contact allergic reaction with an indication of the item as the probable source. Excellent. Your medical record with allergy history. I have everything. Then we're going to the police today, David said decisively. While the trail is fresh, the longer we drag this out, the harder it will be to prove the connection of events. I froze. Police. Official report. This was no longer preparation. This was real action. Are you sure this is necessary? My voice trembled. Mrs. Mitchell, look at the facts objectively. The lawyer spoke firmly but not harshly. Your husband brings you an item that is potentially deadly dangerous for you. He knows about your allergy. He lied about where it was purchased. Involved a third party, a woman who apparently has access to suppliers and understands fabrics. He has a financial motive. Your assets. If you were my client in any other case, I would say this looks like preparation for a crime. The lawyer's words lay like a heavy burden. I closed my eyes trying to control my emotions. Preparation for a crime. For my murder. All right. I exhaled. What time are we meeting? At 2 o'clock. At the police station. Bring all the documents with you. Receipt, medical reports, the dress and packaging, and prepare to tell everything in detail. After the conversation, I sat motionless for a long time, staring out the window. Outside the glass, ordinary city scenes drifted by. Pedestrians, cars, pigeons on the sidewalk. Life went on as usual and my world was collapsing. The phone vibrated. A message from Nathan. Coming home late tonight. Don't wait for dinner. Short. Without explanations. Before I wouldn't have paid attention, but now every word of his seemed suspicious. At 1:30 I went home to get the dress. The apartment greeted me with silence. I went into the bedroom, opened the closet, and took the bag from the top shelf. The dress lay inside, still emerald and beautiful. Deadly beautiful. I put the bag in a large tote, added a folder with documents and left the house. On the way to the station I stopped several times doubting. Was I doing the right thing? Maybe this really was paranoia. Maybe Nathan just made a mistake. Didn't think. But then I remembered his face when he refused to give Vanessa's contact, remembered his irritation, defensive reaction, and the doubts receded. David was waiting for me at the entrance to the station. The building was typical gray with metal doors. Ready? The lawyer asked. No, I answered honestly. But let's go. We were met by Detective Marcus Reed, a man about 40 in uniform. He led us to an office, offered us seats and took out a blank protocol form. I'm listening, he said, looking at me. I began to tell him slowly, trying not to miss details. My husband's return, the gift, Claire trying it on, the terrible attack, then my own allergy, Nathan's lie, the oddities with the dress purchase. David periodically supplemented, clarified legal moments, laid documents on the table. Marcus Reed listened, taking notes. When I finished, he looked thoughtfully at the dress in the bag. You understand that the accusations are serious, he said finally. You're essentially claiming that your husband tried to harm you using your allergy. I'm claiming that the facts look suspicious, I corrected. And I'm asking for an investigation. What specific harm was caused? To his sister, an allergic reaction documented by medical examination. To me personally, none yet because I didn't wear the dress, but the potential threat is obvious. Marcus Reed nodded. All right, we'll need to conduct an examination of the item. Check the fabric composition, presence of chemical substances. Also, question witnesses, your relative, the doctor, the store salesperson, and your husband. He denies everything, I said quietly. Says it's an accident. We'll check that. Reed took the bag with the dress. I'll send the item for examination to the crime lab. This will take time from 1 to 3 weeks. David handed him a list of questions for the examination that they had prepared in advance. Marcus scanned the points and nodded approvingly. Competently compiled. We'll use it as a basis for the order. The next hour was spent on paperwork. I signed protocols, gave explanations, answered questions. When everything was finished, Marcus Reed walked us to the exit. We'll take this case to work, he said in parting. But be prepared that the investigation could go either way. If the examination doesn't show anything criminal, the case will be closed. If it does show something, interrogations will begin. I understand. I nodded. Coming out onto the street, I felt a strange relief. The first step was taken. Now I wasn't alone fighting suspicions. Now the system was working. David walked me to the car. You did great, he said. Hang in there. And one more thing. I strongly recommend now blocking your husband's ability to make transactions with joint property. How do I do that? Through court, you can impose a security measure, a ban on alienation of property until circumstances are clarified. This will protect your assets during the investigation. Do it, I decided. In the evening, I came home and found Nathan in the living room. He was sitting on the couch staring at his phone. But when I entered, he looked up. Where were you? He asked. I had things to do, I answered shortly, taking off my jacket. What things? Until 8 in the evening. My things. Nathan stood up, came closer. On his face was a mixture of irritation and something else. Anxiety? Ella? What's going on? You've been acting strange the last few days, avoiding me, not talking normally. I looked him in the eyes. Once I had loved this person. 11 years ago we got married, dreamed of children, made plans. What went wrong? When did he start seeing me not as a wife but as a source of income? I was at the police station, I said calmly. Filed a report. Nathan's face went pale. What? What report? About a possible attempt to cause harm to health through the dress you gave me. Are you serious? Nathan's voice trembled. You filed a police report against me? I asked for an investigation. If everything is clean as you say, you have nothing to fear. Nathan ran his hand through his hair, turned away, then turned back sharply. You've lost your mind. Because of some allergy of Claire's, you decided I want to kill you. You lied about the purchase, involved Vanessa, who understands fabrics, knew about my allergy, and didn't check the composition. All this looks suspicious. This looks like paranoia. He raised his voice. Ella, come to your senses. I'm your husband. That's exactly why I'm so scared, I said quietly. Nathan froze, looking at me. Then he turned and went into the bedroom, slamming the door loudly. I remained standing in the living room, listening to him throw something in the room, curse through his teeth. 10 minutes later, he came out with a small bag in his hands. I'm leaving, he threw out. Can't be here. Where? To a friend's to spend the night or a hotel. I don't care. I need to think. He left and the apartment plunged into silence. I sat on the couch. A shiver ran through my body. From fear, from relief, from fatigue. I took my phone, dialed David's number. Mrs. Mitchell, what happened? Nathan found out about the report, left home. Expected, the lawyer paused. That's even good. Less risk for you, but be careful. He might try to withdraw money, sell something. I'll file a motion for security measures tomorrow. Thank you. Hang in there. You're doing everything right. I hung up and lay down on the couch without undressing. I was left alone in the apartment that no longer seemed safe. But now I had protection, legal, medical, documentary, and that gave strength. The next day, David filed a motion in court to freeze the spouse's joint property, the apartment and accounts, on grounds of securing property interests during proceedings. The judge would consider the application within 3 days. Nathan didn't appear. He called once, spoke dryly, demanded to stop this circus. I replied that there was no circus, there was a lawful investigation, and hung up. Claire came to me in the evening. We sat in the kitchen, drank tea, and Claire cried quietly. I can't believe it's my brother, she whispered. We grew up together. He was good. People change. I hugged her. Money changes people. If it's true, if he really wanted to. Claire didn't finish. I'll never forgive him. On Friday, the response came from the court. The motion was granted. The apartment and accounts were frozen for 3 months until the investigation was completed. Nathan couldn't sell, gift, or mortgage the property. He had lost his main leverage. When I called to inform him, he was silent for a long time, then said only, "You'll regret this." Is that a threat? I asked. It's a fact. And silence again. I looked at the phone, at the screen with his name, and felt something finally tear inside. 11 years of marriage, hopes, plans. All this had turned into a cold war where everyone defended their territory. But I wasn't going to give up because my life was at stake, and no threats would make me back down. The motive had disappeared. Nathan would no longer get anything even in case of my death. The scheme, if it existed, had collapsed. All that remained was to wait for the examination results and learn the truth. And the truth, as always, was hidden in the details. And these details would soon come to light. The examination took 2.5 weeks, during which I lived as if on a volcano, every day expecting a call. Every night waking from the slightest rustle. Nathan never returned home but called regularly, sometimes with demands to stop the spectacle, sometimes with attempts to make peace, promising he would explain everything. I didn't believe a single word he said. David Harper, meanwhile, worked on all fronts. He requested video recordings from the store's surveillance cameras on the day of the dress purchase. Got a statement from Vanessa Pierce's loyalty card. Pulled up information about her place of work. The picture was gradually coming together, and it was far from rosy. On Wednesday, 17 days after filing the report, Marcus Reed called. Mrs. Mitchell, we have the examination results. The detective's voice was serious. Can you come to the station, better with your lawyer? My heart stopped. What did they find? I exhaled. Better discuss it in person. Will an hour work? The hour dragged on painfully. I called David and we agreed to meet at the station while I rode in a taxi. Dozens of scenarios played through my head. What if the examination showed nothing? What if I really was mistaken? And all this was paranoia. But when I and the lawyer entered Marcus Reed's office and saw his face, it became clear. The results were serious. Sit down. The detective pointed to chairs and laid a thick folder in front of him. The examination report is ready. I'll read the main conclusions. He opened the folder, took out sheets with stamps, and began reading in a professional, detached tone. The subject examined was an item. Women's dress, emerald green color, size 6. Manufacturer, luxury class brand. During chemical analysis of the fabric, it was established. Traces of azo group dye were found in the material fibers, specifically disperse blue 17, as well as its derivatives. The concentration of the substance exceeds regulatory indicators for textile products by 3 times. I felt my blood run cold. Azo dye, exactly the one I was allergic to. In addition, Marcus continued, traces of additional treatment with an antiseptic compound based on formaldehyde were found on the fabric surface. The distribution of the substance is uneven, which indicates secondary treatment of the item after production. David frowned. You mean the dress was treated additionally after it was manufactured? Exactly. The experts note that such concentration and application method are not characteristic of factory treatment. This looks like deliberate enhancement of the fabric's potentially dangerous properties. The silence in the office became absolute. What does this mean legally? David asked. This means we have grounds to suspect deliberate actions aimed at creating a threat to life and health. Marcus Reed closed the folder. The qualification is preliminary so far, but we're considering charges of attempted grievous bodily harm, possibly even attempted murder if we prove awareness of consequences and direct intent. I closed my eyes. Attempted murder. My husband, the person I had lived with for 11 years. What next? My voice sounded hollow. Next, we summon your husband and Vanessa Pierce for interrogation. We need to establish who exactly treated the dress and for what purpose. We have video from the store cameras. Pierce bought the dress personally. This is documented. We're also checking her work contacts. She really works as a buyer, has access to fabric and chemical suppliers, so she could have gotten these substances. David clarified. Theoretically, yes, she has connections in the textile industry. She knows where and what to buy. But we must prove that she really did it, and that she acted on your husband's instructions. I raised my head. What about the connection between Nathan and Vanessa? Have you checked? Marcus nodded, opening another folder. We checked. Phone records show regular contact between them over the past 8 months. Daily calls, correspondence. We requested a phone data dump. There are many personal conversations there. Formerly their colleagues, but the nature of the communication, let's say, goes beyond work relations. So a mistress. I had suspected this for a long time, but now I had confirmation. 8 months. Almost a year. We also checked the financial side, the detective added. Your husband has no property of his own. The apartment business shares main accounts. Everything is in your name. In case of your death, he would receive the inheritance as a first priority spouse. The motive is obvious. David wrote, nodding. When are the interrogations scheduled? We'll summon Nathan Mitchell tomorrow. Vanessa Pierce the day after. We want to hear his version first, then compare it with her testimony. I thought, tomorrow Nathan would be sitting in this office, answering questions, possibly lying, dodging, and then Vanessa, a woman I had never seen, but who bought a dress capable of killing me. Leaving the station, I couldn't hold back. I stopped by the building wall and cried quietly, restrainedly, but tears rolled down my cheeks on their own. David silently handed me a handkerchief. You're holding up well, he said. The worst is behind us. Now we have evidence. He really wanted to kill me, I whispered. My husband. For money. And a mistress. We'll prove it and he'll answer. The next day, Nathan was supposed to appear for interrogation at 2 o'clock. He came thinner, confused. He was dressed in ordinary jeans and a shirt, looked tired and nervous. Marcus Reed sat across from him, turned on the recorder, and began the formalities. Date, time, identity of the interrogated. Nathan answered monosyllabically, looking at the table. Mr. Mitchell, are you aware of the reason you've been invited for interrogation? Yes, my wife filed a report. Correct. Please tell us how you acquired the dress you gave your wife on September 21st. Nathan licked his lips. I asked an acquaintance to buy it. Vanessa Pierce, she works as a stylist. Understands fashion. I was busy. Didn't have time myself. Why specifically a dress? Why specifically this brand? I wanted to do something nice for my wife. She hadn't bought anything for herself in a long time. Did you know about your wife's health condition? About her allergy? A pause. Nathan looked up. I knew, but I didn't think the dress could be dangerous. Did you check the fabric composition before purchase? No. Why not? Didn't think about it. Marcus leaned forward. Mr. Mitchell, the examination showed that the dress fabric contains azo dye in high concentration, exactly the type of substance your wife has a severe allergy to with risk of anaphylactic shock. Also found was additional treatment with formaldehyde. Can you explain this? Nathan's face went pale. I don't know. I didn't treat the dress. Vanessa bought it at the store, handed it to me in the box. I just gave it to Ella Lehner. When did Vanessa give you the dress? Thursday evening. I came back from the business trip on Friday, but met with her before that. So, you were in the city already on Thursday. Nathan hesitated. I came back a day earlier but didn't go home right away. Why not? I was tired. Stopped at a hotel. Which one? On Riverside Avenue. Don't remember the name. Marcus wrote. Do you have a receipt from this hotel? No. Paid cash. Mr. Mitchell, what is the nature of your relationship with Vanessa Pierce? Work. We're colleagues. Only colleagues. The pause dragged on. We're our friends. Your phone records show daily communication. Is this usual for colleagues? We have a close relationship, but this has nothing to do with the dress. It does, Marcus said firmly. Because we're considering the version that the dress was deliberately treated with dangerous substances with the purpose of harming your wife. And you and Vanessa Pierce are the only ones who had access to this dress before it got to the victim. This is absurd. Nathan jumped up. I didn't treat any dress. I just wanted to give a gift. Then Vanessa did it. I don't know. Maybe she bought a defective one. Maybe they made a mistake at the store, but it wasn't deliberate. They made a mistake at the store? Marcus asked. Do you understand that if intent is proven, you face charges of attempted murder? Nathan lowered his head, his face gray. I didn't want to kill her. But you wanted to get her property. Silence. Mr. Mitchell, answer the question. We had financial problems. I was in debt. Needed money. How much? $25,000. Credit cards, private loans. And you decided your wife's death would solve your problems? No. Nathan hit the table with his fist. I wasn't planning to kill her. He fell silent, realizing he'd said too much. You thought what, Mr. Mitchell? The silence stretched for a minute. Then Nathan said quietly, I want a lawyer. I won't say anything more without a lawyer. The interrogation ended there. The next day they summoned Vanessa Pierce. A woman about 33 entered the office. Slender, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Dressed stylishly but conservatively. She was a professional, self-confident. Only her eyes betrayed nervousness. Marcus conducted the same formalities and began the interrogation. Miss Pierce, are you acquainted with Nathan Mitchell? Yes, we work in the same field. What field exactly? I'm a stylist consultant. He's a financial analyst at a trading company. Our companies cooperate. Do you communicate closely? Vanessa paused. We are dating. We're in a relationship. A romantic relationship? Yes. A direct answer. No shame. No regret. How long? About a year, maybe a little less. Nathan is married. I know. Do you know his wife? No, we've never met. But you know he's married to Ella Laner Mitchell, who owns a pharmacy business and an apartment. Yes, he told me. Marcus flipped through papers. On September 20th, you bought a women's dress at a boutique on Madison Avenue for $600. Correct. At whose request? Nathan asked. Said he wanted to give it to his wife. Didn't this seem strange to you? A lover asking to buy a gift for his wife. Vanessa shrugged. He explained that he wanted to make amends, improve relations. I agreed to help. Did you choose the dress yourself? No. Nathan showed me a photo, said it had to be exactly like that. I found it in the store and bought it. And then I gave it to him. He picked up the dress that same evening. Miss Pierce, you work with fabrics. Do you know what azo dyes are? A pause. Vanessa tensed. Yes. It's a group of dyes used in textiles. Do you know that some of them are dangerous for people with allergies? Yes, I've heard. Do you know that Nathan's wife has a severe allergy specifically to azo dyes? Vanessa paled. No, Nathan didn't tell me that. Didn't tell you? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Or do you prefer to forget? I didn't know, Vanessa repeated firmly. All right, then explain. Why does the dress you bought contain a dye in triple concentration and have traces of additional formaldehyde dyes? I didn't know. I bought it at the store. It was in a box with tags. I didn't do anything to it. Do you have access to chemical substances for fabric treatment? I have contacts with suppliers, but I don't do treatment. That's not my specialization. But theoretically, you could get the necessary substances. Theoretically, many people could, but I didn't do it. Marcus wrote, then looked her in the eye. Miss Pierce, do you understand that you're under suspicion of complicity in attempted murder? Her hands trembled. I didn't do anything. I just bought a dress at the request of a man I love. If it turned out to be dangerous, I didn't know. You love a married man who used you to kill his wife and get her money. Doesn't this seem strange to you? Vanessa bit her lip, her eyes filled with tears. Nathan said he would divorce. Promised we'd be together. I didn't know about his debts, about plans. I swear. The interrogation continued for another hour, but Vanessa stubbornly insisted on her version. She just bought the dress, didn't do anything to it, didn't know about the allergy. Either she was telling the truth or she was an excellent actress. The scheme was beginning to collapse. Nathan admitted debts and motive. Vanessa gave testimony. The examination confirmed the dress's danger. Now all that remained was to collect the last links in the chain and bring the case to completion. The breakthrough happened unexpectedly. A week after the interrogations, Marcus Reed called me early Monday morning when I was just opening the pharmacy. Mrs. Mitchell, we need to meet urgently. We have a witness. What witness? My pulse quickened. Better in person. Come to the station in an hour with your lawyer. David Harper arrived quickly, and together we headed to the police station. In the office, Marcus was waiting for us along with another person, a man about 50 in glasses and a gray suit. Meet, the detective introduced. Dr. Ethan Coleman, chemical expert from an independent laboratory. He's the one who conducted the examination of your dress. Ethan nodded, shaking hands. I asked him to come personally because we have important information. Marcus continued. Dr. Coleman, please tell them. The expert opened his folder, took out photographs of the fabric under a microscope. During detailed study of the samples, I discovered something interesting. The azo dye and formaldehyde were applied not uniformly but in spots, mainly on the inner side of the item, in places of contact with skin. This is technically complex work requiring knowledge and equipment. So this was done by a professional. David clarified. Not necessarily a professional, but definitely someone who understands chemistry and has access to reagents. I conducted an additional check, tried to establish the origin of the substances. The azo dye turned out to be a specific brand that's rarely used in industry. I contacted manufacturers and suppliers. He paused, glancing at Marcus, and found out that a batch of this dye was purchased a month ago through one of the supplier companies. The buyer and individual registration through an agent. I got the agent's contacts and passed them to the police. Marcus nodded, opening his folder. We found this agent. Had a conversation with him yesterday. He confirmed a month ago a woman approached him, introduced herself as a stylist, said she needed special dyes for an exclusive project. He processed the order. She picked up the goods, paid cash. Who is this woman? I already knew the answer but still asked. Vanessa Pierce. The agent identified her from a photograph. Silence. I felt everything inside compress into a knot. So Vanessa had lied. She didn't just buy the dress. She bought the dye, treated it herself. We summoned her for repeat interrogation this afternoon, Marcus said. This time with evidence. We'll also summon your husband. We'll conduct confrontations. What will this change legally? David asked. If Pierce confesses or we prove her actions documentarily, she becomes an accomplice to attempted murder. Nathan Mitchell, the organizer, both face real prison time. I closed my eyes. Real prison time. My husband would go to jail, the woman he loved more than me too. And if she doesn't confess? I asked quietly. We have the agent's testimony, the examination, phone records between Nathan and Vanessa during the preparation period, more than 30 calls in the 2 weeks before the dress purchase, plus financial documents confirming Nathan's debts and motive. Even if they deny it, the case will go to court. Dr. Coleman added. I'm ready to testify in court. The fabric treatment was deliberate, professional. This isn't an accident and not a factory defect. Someone specifically made this item dangerous precisely for a person with an allergy to azo dyes. I looked at the photographs under the microscope. Green fabric dotted with dye spots. A beautiful dress turned into a murder weapon. Thank you, I said to the expert. Thank you for finding this. He nodded sympathetically. I was just doing my job, but I'm glad I helped. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Vanessa Pierce's repeat interrogation began. This time Vanessa confessed completely. She told everything. Nathan asked her to buy the dress and treat it with dye. Said it was the only way to solve financial problems. Promised that after his wife's death, they would be together, would share the inheritance. She agreed because she loved him and wanted to help. She bought the dye through an acquaintance agent, treated the fabric at home using a sprayer, then packed the dress back in the box, gave it to Nathan. She understood this would kill Ella Lehner. Nathan told her about the allergy, explained that contact with the substance would cause anaphylactic shock. They calculated that Ella Lehner would wear the dress immediately, and the reaction would be instant. The ambulance wouldn't make it in time. The death would be attributed to allergy and accident. They didn't think the dress might be tried on by someone else. And this was the accident that destroyed their plan. When Nathan found out about his sister's attack, he realized everything would be exposed. That's why he started denying, defending himself. I survived thanks to Claire. She unwittingly saved my life. I asked David to take me home. The apartment greeted me with silence. I went into the bedroom, opened the closet. Nathan's clothes were still hanging there. His things lay on the shelves. Someone else's things. Things belonging to a person who wanted to kill her. The phone rang in the evening. David. Nathan admitted guilt completely. After the confrontation with Vanessa, he realized denial was pointless. Gave detailed testimony. How they planned, how they discussed details, how they counted on the inheritance. What does he face? Attempted murder by prior conspiracy from mercenary motives, 8 to 15 years. Vanessa. Complicity 6 to 12. They'll both remain under a pledge not to leave until trial, but they really can't flee. I was silent. And civil suits you can file for compensation for moral damages, reimbursement of lawyer expenses, examinations. You can also initiate divorce with property division. Everything will be in your favor given the circumstances. Start the divorce procedure. I said firmly. I don't want to have anything to do with him. In the following weeks, life gradually entered its usual rhythm. I returned to work managing the pharmacies. Partner Gregory Barnes supported me, helped with affairs, distracted from dark thoughts. Claire came often. We spent evenings together talking about everything except Nathan. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. I prepared for it together with David. Nathan and Vanessa's lawyers tried to negotiate a mitigation of charges, but the prosecutor's office was adamant. Too obvious intent, too cruel a plan. In January, a week before the trial, I received a letter from Nathan, handwritten on ordinary paper. Ella, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I know you hate me, but I want you to know the truth. I'm not making excuses, just explaining. Debts were strangling me. $25,000. Collectors were threatening. I was scared. And then Vanessa appeared. She said she loved me, that she would help. Proposed the plan. I agreed because I was weak. Because I was scared. Because I wanted an easy way out. I didn't think about you. Didn't think that you're a living person. My wife who trusted me. Thought only about money, about freedom from debts. This is monstrous. When Claire ended up in the hospital, I understood for the first time what I'd done. Saw her face, her fear, and imagined it was you. And I became scared. But it was too late. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to live long happily without fear, and to know I'll pay for everything. Nathan. I read the letter twice, then folded it and put it in a desk drawer. I wasn't going to forgive, but at least I got some explanation. The trial went quickly. There was enough evidence. The confessional testimony simplified the process. Nathan got 10 years in a maximum security colony. Vanessa 7 years. Both heard the verdicts silently, not looking at each other. I attended the sentencing. I sat in the courtroom, looked at the person I had lived with for 11 years, and felt emptiness. No anger, no pity, just emptiness. When it was all over, I left the courthouse as if shedding a heavy burden. Life went on. David walked me to the car. "How are you?" he asked. "Alive," I answered simply. "I'm alive, and that's the main thing." The divorce was finalized a month later. The property remained entirely with me. Nathan had no rights to it given the circumstances. I sold the apartment, bought a new one in a different neighborhood, started everything with a clean slate. Claire helped with the move, pack things. "You're strong," she said, hugging me. "I'm proud of you." "I just wanted to live," I answered, "and I fought for it." 6 months later, I opened a fourth pharmacy. The business was growing. Life was getting better. Sometimes at night she dreamed of the emerald dress and she would wake up in a cold sweat. But then she remembered she survived. She won. And the fear receded. The motive that pushed Nathan to crime disappeared the moment she executed the will and power of attorney. The scheme collapsed even before it could work. And her life, continued. And that was the most important victory. If you had been in my shoes, how would you have reacted when you discovered such a terrifying betrayal? Have you ever had to fight to protect your life or your future from someone you once trusted? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.